All right, hold on to your seats because what just happened on live television is so absolutely bonkers, so completely unprecedented, so politically nuclear that even seasoned Westminster veterans are struggling to process it. David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, one of the most senior members of Keir Starmer's cabinet, has just been effectively sacked by Parliament itself after the latest Jeffrey Epstein files resurfaced during a live broadcast, files that apparently contain information so damaging, so explosive, so utterly toxic that MPs from multiple parties essentially revolted and demanded his immediate removal from office. We are not talking about a routine ministerial resignation here. We are talking about a foreign secretary being forced out in real time on live television while new revelations about Epstein connections are being discussed. And Keir Starmer is absolutely panicking because his government is now in free fall, with cabinet ministers dropping like flies and scandals multiplying faster than he can possibly manage. This is the kind of political chaos that makes the history books, the kind of moment that gets replayed for decades as an example of governmental collapse, the kind of crisis that destroys careers and potentially entire governments. And it is happening right now, unfolding in real time, with more revelations probably still to come. If you want to witness every second of this absolutely spectacular political meltdown as it happens, smash that subscribe button and hit notifications immediately, because what comes next could literally bring down the entire government, and you need to be here to see it. So let us break down exactly what happened, because the sequence of events is absolutely extraordinary and needs to be understood in full horrifying detail. There was a live parliamentary broadcast, probably covering a session where the ongoing scandals were being discussed, when new Epstein files apparently surfaced or were referenced by an MP. Now, we need to be very careful about the specifics here, because information is still emerging and being verified, but the reports suggest that these files contain new information about connections between various political figures and Jeffrey Epstein's network, information that had not previously been public, information that directly implicates David Lammy in some capacity. The reaction was immediate and explosive. MPs who were watching this unfold in real time started calling for Lammy's resignation on the floor of Parliament, not through the usual channels of private discussions and managed exits, but publicly, loudly, insistently, from MPs across multiple parties who apparently felt that what they were learning was so serious that immediate action was required. The Foreign Secretary, the person responsible for Britain's relationships with the entire world, was being accused on live television of having connections to or knowledge of activities related to the Epstein network, and the political class essentially said in unison that this was disqualifying and he had to go. What makes this particularly devastating is the live nature of it all. This was not a carefully managed resignation where statements are prepared, where the timing is controlled, where there is at least some semblance of dignity and process. This was a public execution, a political career ending in real time on camera while millions potentially watched. The humiliation is complete, the damage is irreversible, and the precedent being set is absolutely extraordinary. When Parliament itself essentially forces out a cabinet minister on live television, that is a level of accountability and public pressure that we have rarely, if ever, seen in modern British politics. Starmer's panic is entirely understandable and entirely visible to anyone watching. He has now lost multiple cabinet ministers to the Epstein-Mandelson scandal saga. His foreign secretary, one of the great offices of state, has been forced out in the most humiliating circumstances imaginable. The entire world is watching Britain's government collapse in spectacular fashion, and he has absolutely no control over any of it, no ability to manage the narrative, no way to stop the bleeding. This is what it looks like when a prime minister has completely lost authority, when events are driving him rather than him driving events, when he is reduced to reacting desperately to each new crisis rather than governing proactively. The specific contents of the Epstein files that resurfaced are obviously crucial to understanding why this provoked such an extreme reaction. Without knowing exactly what they contain, we can infer from the response that they must be seriously damaging. MPs do not call for a foreign secretary's head on live television over minor associations or tangential connections. This must be something significant, something that suggests either direct knowledge of wrongdoing or involvement in activities that are completely incompatible with holding high office or participation in cover-ups of information that the public had a right to know. Whatever it is, it crossed a line that made Lammy's continued service impossible in the eyes of MPs from across the political spectrum. The fact that these files resurfaced on live television is itself interesting and raises questions about how this information is coming out. Was this a planned revelation by an MP who had obtained the files and chose this moment to deploy them for maximum impact? Was this an accidental disclosure where something that should have been kept confidential was inadvertently made public? Was this leaked by someone within government or law enforcement who felt the public needed to know? The how and why of the disclosure will matter enormously in terms of what happens next and who else might be implicated. The parliamentary reaction suggests cross-party consensus that Lammy's position was untenable, which is relatively rare in modern politics. Usually, resignations are fought along party lines, with the governing party defending their minister and the opposition attacking. But when MPs from multiple parties are all calling for someone to go, when even backbenchers from the governing party are joining the calls, that is a very different dynamic. It suggests the evidence or allegations are so serious that normal partisan considerations are being set aside in favor of basic standards of propriety and accountability. David Lammy's removal as Foreign Secretary has massive implications beyond just the domestic political crisis. He was the face of British foreign policy, the person representing Britain to the world, the individual conducting delicate negotiations and building international relations. Having him forced out in disgrace over connections to the Epstein network is catastrophically damaging to Britain's international reputation and standing. Foreign governments are going to be questioning whether they can trust British assurances, whether commitments made by Lammy's Foreign Office are still valid, whether Britain is a stable and reliable partner. The damage to our diplomatic position could take years to repair. The process of how Lammy was actually removed is important to understand because it sets precedents for how ministerial accountability works. Technically, only the Prime Minister can sack a minister, so what we are really talking about is parliamentary and public pressure becoming so intense that Lammy had no choice but to resign, and Starmer had no choice but to accept that resignation. But the speed and the very public nature of it, the fact that this happened in real time on live broadcasts rather than through the usual private negotiations, that is unprecedented, and it changes the dynamics of how ministerial accountability functions going forward. Starmer now faces the enormous challenge of appointing a new foreign secretary at a time when his government is in crisis and when anyone accepting the position knows they are joining a sinking ship. Who wants to become foreign secretary when the previous holder was just forced out in disgrace and the government might collapse within weeks or even days? It is a position that normally would be the pinnacle of a political career, but right now it looks more like a poisoned chalice that could end a career rather than enhance it. Whoever Starmer appoints will face immediate questions about their own background and associations, will be subject to intense scrutiny, and will have to operate with the knowledge that they might be in office only briefly before the entire government falls. The opposition is absolutely savage in their response, as you would expect. Conservative MPs are calling this evidence of systemic corruption within labor, suggesting that if 2 senior ministers have now fallen to Epstein-related scandals, how many others might be implicated? They are demanding a full independent inquiry into the vetting processes, into who knew what and when, into whether there has been a deliberate cover-up of information that should have been disclosed. Reform UK is using this as further evidence that the entire Westminster establishment is rotten and needs to be replaced.
The liberal Democrats are calling for emergency debates and votes of confidence. But again, most devastating is the reaction from within labor itself. When your own backbenchers are calling for a cabinet minister to resign, when they are not defending or making excuses, when they are prioritizing accountability over party loyalty, that tells you how serious the situation is. These MPs understand that defending the indefensible will only damage them personally and damage the party's already shattered credibility. So they are cutting loose, distancing themselves, trying to save their own political skins, even if it means contributing to the government's collapse. The media coverage is absolutely relentless and will be so for days, if not weeks. Every outlet is running this as their lead story. Every political editor is providing analysis. Every news bulletin is updating as more information emerges. The story has everything: scandal, live drama, connections to one of the most notorious criminals in modern history, a government